So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stephanie Allen, and I am the Assistant Director within the Department of Professional Studies. I want to welcome you to the UMBC Data Science Virtual Open House. We hope that you enjoyed this discussion, that you have some great questions. And without further ado, I introduce you to the Graduate Program Director, Dr. Ergin Simsek.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Ergin Şimşek. I am the Graduate Program Director for Data Science. Also, I am an Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Electrical Engineering. This is my 5th year at UMBC, and we have graduated so many students from our program. Right now, we are the largest graduate program on campus. We have, as you can imagine, we have so many students, both domestic and international. And we are offering 50 sections of courses in the fall and spring semesters, but we also offer some courses in the summer. So let me give you a quick introduction. Can I maybe just change the layout? So our program is it's called Master of Professional Studies. The main goal of our program is preparing people, students for the industry. And in our program, there are 7 courses. Actually, in master program, you are supposed to take 10 courses, but 7 of these courses are fixed. You can see the list on this site. So data 601 to data 606, 6 of them are core data science courses. And then we also require our students to take an engineering management course called ENMG 652, Management, Leadership, and Communication. Then the remaining 3 courses are up to you. We have a bunch of courses in different pathways, and you can, maybe you can see from this site, we have several pathways. So when we say pathway, it's basically the programs or departments that we have agreement with. So you can take courses from them depending on your background and also plans. As the data science program, we offer advanced data science courses focusing on AI, artificial intelligence, NLP, natural language processing, deep learning. We are also working on a new one, which will be focusing on reinforcement learning, which is another very hot subject nowadays. Again, depending on your background, you can also take courses from cybersecurity, health IT, economics. So we can talk about them during the orientation. Our program, it's an MPS program, right? Master of Professional Studies. It is different than a typical MS program. So in MS, for example, if you go to MS in CS, Master of Science in Computer Science, their focus is more on the theoretical aspects of data science. So they are trying to educate people on how to develop, algorithms, new algorithms, novel algorithms, doing some machine learning stuff. So our stuff, what we do is it's purely applied, purely pragmatic, practical, and we are focusing on the applications of data science. In 601, we provide a brief introduction to Python programming, a little bit of review of statistics and calculus. Then we do our first machine learning projects using linear regression. Okay. But our real machine learning class is actually Data 602, Introduction to Data Analysis and Machine Learning. And in that one, we covered all the fundamental methods of supervised learning and unsupervised learning. We start with linear regression, logistic regression. Then we talk about ensemble methods, tree-based methods. Then in the last part, the last 3-4 weeks, we focus on 3 types of deep learning algorithms, FCNNs, fully connected neural network, CNNs, convolutional neural networks, and RNNs, recurrent neural networks. But if you want to really learn deep learning, then we have, as I told you, we have those advanced courses on these subjects. And we have really experts of this field, deep learning, teaching these courses. So you don't have to have a background in computer science to be admitted to our program, but I have to be honest with you, our program is right now, very hot program. We have receiving a large number of applications, so I would say it's very competitive. So most of our courses are in the evenings because our program is originally created for working professionals in the nearby companies. But we also offer a few courses during the daytime. And there are a couple of reasons. For example, one reason is one of our instructors, she works at Google, but she lives in Switzerland. Okay, so she teaches from Switzerland. So because of the time difference, she has to teach her class during the daytime. In our program, like we have four full-time faculty members, me, Dr. Sorush, Dr. Borle, and Dr. Yusuf. But we also have so many adjunct instructors. So adjunct instructors mean that they work at different organizations such as IBM, Amazon, KPMG, Booz Allen, etc., during the daytime. And in the evenings, they come to our campus and they give their lectures. We don't write a thesis. There's no thesis requirement. But if you're interested in doing research with one of our faculty members, then we have a special course called like independent study in data science. So it is like taking a course, but basically you will be the one doing the work, like doing the research under the supervision of one of our faculty members. So our admission requirements are quite straightforward. We expect at least 3.0 GPA. So if you are from another country or another programming like grading system, that's okay. Like we have applications from all over the world, so we are very familiar with the grading systems, different grading systems. So if you're an international student, we expect you to take an ELC exam in the last 2 years. Our TOEFL minimum is like 90, and we expect in each section to have like 22 or something like that. IELTS, same thing, like 6.5 in each section. And Pearson test, it's like 61 or 62 or something like that. So we don't require GRE. You don't have to take GRE exam. In your application, we expect you to submit a statement of purpose and briefly explaining why you are interested in our program, how you fit our program, like how you meet our admission requirements, and why you are interested in data science. If you are not very familiar with programming, you have time, right, before you submit the application. Even like today, actually, you start studying programming. So our programs are very technical. Like there are so many, like hundreds of data science programs, in the United States. Most of them are very light. We don't consider our program as a light program. It's very technical, and in all of our core data science courses, and also in advanced data science courses, we use Python programming. So Python is the key. Again, if you're not familiar with Python programming, that's fine, but I think you should start from day one. There are so many freely available resources, online lectures, online books, free books, websites that you can start learning Python programming. Our deadline for international applications is actually April 7, which is basically this Friday. So in your application, as I told you, like we expect you to submit a statement of purpose, your transcripts. For international applications, we require TOEFL, ELC, like English literature exam scores. We also require reference letters from our international applicants. And the reason is like sometimes we don't know about those schools, those education systems. So those reference letters are really helpful for us to making a decision. And the last thing in your application package should be your resume. So resume is really important. Please provide a very brief but realistic, at the same time rich resume, which highlights your background, education, experience in industry, and also experience if you have some experience in programming, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, so that's all about our basic courses, admission requirements, what our program is about. So if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer. And you can ask your question just by muting yourself, or you can write your question in the chat. Let's see if there's anything in the chat. Right now, there's nothing, but just feel free to ask me a question if you have one.
I do have a question.
Please go ahead.
About the English proficiency test. Do you guys accept Duolingo?
Yeah, we accept Duolingo. Like actually, we start accepting Duolingo results because of the pandemic. And we have so many applicants submitting their Duolingo scores. So in Duolingo, we expect 115 overall or better score, but none of the sections should be less than 100. Okay, because we had some students they are doing really well in 3 sections, but very poor in 1 section. Then unfortunately, like we cannot help, we cannot admit those students. But yes, we accept Duolingo scores as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also,
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So in the online application form, there is a requirement that we should submit cover letter. So you didn't mention about cover letter.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure like we require 100%, but I would recommend maybe just providing 1 paragraph document saying that I don't know, actually, like most of the applications we just have like resumes and statement of purposes. If you want, you can just upload your statement of purpose into 2 sections: so resume, statement of purpose column, and also cover letter column.
All right,
Like,
thank you so
cover
much.
letter is like more important for like job applications, right? But for academic applications, I don't think it's 100% important. So Stephanie also confirmed that cover letter is not required. So you can submit your application without writing a new cover letter.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, Jabria, you may unmute and ask your question, please.
Hello, I was just wondering if you can answer one question, please. I was just wondering if you can explain what spatial analytics is, like for one of the pathways.
Yeah, spatial analytics, it is the pathway that we created with the geography department. So like I can give you 2 examples. One of them is like NASA, the other one is Esri. So they are working with spatial data sets, meaning that, so like mostly they're working with satellite data sets, and they have images of very large areas, and those images are taken over time by different satellites. So how can we gather information from those extremely large data sets? So it requires big data platforms. Like you need to be able to work with large data sets. In 603, we cover that. And also you need to be familiar with image processing algorithms. We have some courses in the computer science department focusing on that part, but we also have so many courses in the GIS department. They are specifically dealing with geospatial data. Again, like those data sets come from NASA. So Esri is another big one. So Esri is, I'm not sure if you are familiar with it, but their headquarters in Arlington, and they are the biggest data set provider for GPS, like location related both regular projects and like research projects, and also for industrial projects. Yeah, like spatial data means like the data coming from geography, mostly collected by satellites.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But like there's one professor, Professor Ali Tokay, he's in the GIS department, like Geographical and Environmental Studies department. So they work with NASA, but what they do is they work on snow collection. So they have these very strange phased array antenna systems, and they try to, they go to like very snow areas. For example, this year they went to Connecticut to measure data. And the funny thing is like this winter it didn't snow a lot, so they were not able to collect lots of data, but still they have some, and they are trying to do some interesting research projects with those data sets. Again, that is the data set not collected with a satellite, but it is collected with very large scale antenna systems. Yeah, like actually, let me tell you a couple of things, by the way. Like most of our international students, since they have to take 3 courses per semester, they can finish in 3 semesters, but the typical duration is like 4 semesters, especially for our domestic students. Take 2 or 3 courses in the fall and spring semesters. And we also teach some courses in summer. Like we don't teach many, but compared to fall and spring. But in summer, we also offer 10 or 12 courses. Okay, talk about placements and internships. As a department, we don't have we don't have resources to help our students with finding an internship, but somehow our students are very successful in finding internships. And there are multiple reasons. Of course, the number one reason is data science is a very hot subject. There are so many companies that they are trying to utilize what they already have in their systems, like in their databases, and they want to use this new machine learning algorithms to come up with new information, right? So our students are applying for those positions, both local and also on different parts of the United States. But also there are some remote positions. Even though the position originally located in, let's say, LA, they can work from here. They can submit their applications. Usually, they can submit their applications early enough, but international students can start their internship, off-campus internship, after completing 18 credits. It means that they need to complete 6 courses, which is basically 2 semesters. So we have a website, dil.umbc.edu, so you can see the address here. And right now, you will not have access, but once you are in the system, you will have an access to this list. It's like an Excel sheet. It's like a Google spreadsheet in which we list all the companies who hired our students as an intern in the past year or so. The last time I checked it, there were more than 50 or 60 companies, and our students are finding jobs sometimes with the title of junior data scientist, sometimes machine learning engineer, but some of them are finding jobs not 100% in data science, but very related to data science, for example, database engineer or so I couldn't remember that one precise, but some of them are finding jobs as software developer, front-end engineer, back-end engineer. There are so many opportunities, but of course, if you have some experience already, then it will really simplify your job finding, both part-time and full-time jobs. When we look at our current student success, there is this very clear pattern. The ones with very high GPA, both from their undergraduate program and also from UMBC. The ones who have beautiful GitHub repositories, the ones who have very professional LinkedIn accounts, they are not experiencing any difficulty with finding jobs, both part-time and full-time. But you have to play this game really right. Everything should be fine. Everything should be in the place. So we are not expecting you to create your GitHub repository from today, but you will have time. You will be here with us for 2 years. So you need to build that portfolio while you are here. Okay, different projects dealing with different techniques of machine learning, working with different types of data sets. It's not only just CSV files. You should work with all sorts of data sets, like image data sets or sound data sets, whatever you can find. And also it depends on your plans, right? If you're interested in working as in the field of, let's say, health or bioinformatics, then you should work with bioinformatic data sets, and you should reflect those experiences on your GitHub repository, okay, GitHub profile. So if you look at my GitHub repository, you will understand precisely what I am doing, right? Let me just okay. First, I need to see. Okay, let me see. GitHub. Okay, let me share my screen quickly. So here, on the bottom, there's a bar, right? It says when I did some contributions to my GitHub repository. Since I don't teach any course in the summer, I didn't do anything in the summer, but as you can see, I am contributing, I'm doing something one at a time. It says in the last year, I had 313 contributions. So that is the first thing they look at, right? Then let's look at, different, folders or repositories. For example, this one is my graduate course I'm teaching this semester, machine learning and photonics, and you can see the course materials. But also when you go to different folders, you will see all of my codes. Okay, for example, this one is a binary SVM to identify the chips which are not working. Okay, so if you can go there, you will see this is the data set I created. This is how we do it, etc., etc. But So anyone who is interested in learning in my experience in machine learning, they can just go to my GitHub repository and they will get an entire picture. There's like a differential reflectance, data set, and then if you go here, you will see that we are working on, we are using attention mechanism to solve this problem. But there are example projects that I did in my recent times using both fundamental machine learning techniques and also advanced ones. But the thing is, like, anyone can learn about my background, and it is the same thing about you. So while you are here, and day by day, you should establish your resume, you should establish your portfolio, and you should present it in a nice way on your GitHub repository. Okay, then because like the first thing they check, not the HR people, but your hopefully future manager, it will be your GitHub repository. Okay, so it's very important. Yeah, so like in short, like we don't help we don't help like directly with finding internships or full-time positions, but our students are doing very well.
I do have a question. So related to the admission requirements, it says statistics. In case, I do have a class related to statistics and probability on the same class, but I don't know if that will fulfill the requirement. Once I apply, I might take like summer or some classes before the program starts in order to accomplish or fulfill that requirement.
So like if you get a good grade in that course, like probability and statistics course during your undergraduate study, so that will meet our admission requirements, at least on paper. But like the reason we are requesting those is not to make your job difficult. So we are really requesting those because all the successful machine learning people or data scientists, they really need to have this good understanding of statistics and vector calculus. So like in your case, probably you will meet our admission requirements in terms of that course load. But as a data science enthusiast, you need to refresh your statistics knowledge, right? Probably like you don't remember right now what z-score is or why we care about like p-value. Do you remember those?
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, see, same situation. So
I
like,
understand it.
oh, good. But the thing is like, when you build a machine learning model, let's say like you have this problem, right? You have 2,000 features, right? You are trying to build a machine learning model for which like you cannot come up with a like understandable machine learning model if you have 2,000 features, right? You have to eliminate some of them. So one of the most very easy methods would be looking at if you had like only 20 features, you would look at the correlations, right? Small correlations, you can just get rid of them. But when you have 2,000 features, you cannot do that. That in that case, you will need statistics, right? You will just apply some statistical test, and when you see a p-value of like 15 for one feature, and for another feature, p-value of like 0.01, and then you will say, okay, there is this huge difference between them, so I will go with the 0.01 guy, but the other guy, I will not pay attention to that one. So like statistics is very, very important to become a successful data scientist. But the second part is the following. How can you automate this process, right? So I don't want to deal with finding the p-values, z-stats every time. So I want to automate this process. So what should I do, right? In 602, we will teach you doing this lasso or ridge lasso method, right? To do regularization, and you will see that you will start with 2,000 features, but at the end you only need maybe 20 of them. Okay, so lasso will help you by identifying those non very important features. We want those like knowledge of statistics and also understanding of vector calculus. So you might say like, why I need to understand vector calculus? For example, this week in my MLP class, machine learning and photonics class, we talk about fully connected neural networks. So when you have only one hidden layer, it's very easy to understand what's going on. But what happens when you have tens of hidden layers? Okay, in that case, you really need to understand how those matrix multiplications are happening, I should say maybe tensor multiplications are occurring, then you will really understand, okay, now I have to take the transpose of this guy, multiply with the coefficient matrix, etc. So like those requirements are here not to make your job difficult. The total opposite. We are just trying to make sure that you will be a successful data scientist. And if you are not meeting the admission requirements, that's fine. You can take online courses, okay? There are like edX, I forgot their names. There are so many online platforms. You can take those courses. But my recommendation would be like number one recommendation is getting better in Python. If you have no Python programming experience, I think it's really good. Like start from today because of two reasons. Number one, of course, you will get better in Python programming. But number two, some people say like in the beginning they are so excited. Oh, I want to be a data scientist, etc. But 2 months after they say, okay, this is not my cup of tea. I don't want to spend my rest of my life by writing codes. Like I write codes every day and I enjoy it. Even for simple stuff, I write codes. Like for example, this week I was going to assign some very fancy papers to my graduate students, but I wanted to be fair, so I wrote a code, and that code basically randomly generates like these are the student names, these are the papers, okay, randomly couples them to each other. And I just asked my students like how many times I should do this, randomization, and one of them said like 71. So I said 71 into my code, press F5, 71 times it run, then at the end it created this random list. So again, like I love programming so much. It's my passion. I find it both challenging and also at the same time very rewarding. And as I told you, like there are some programs, especially like business data science or business data analytics programs. In those programs, you would do almost no programming. So we are not like that. We love programming and we want you to be a good programmer in Python at the end of this program. So in the beginning, you don't have to be an expert, but at the end, you should be a really, really good programmer in Python. And then you will see that like you will also use that job, not only for data science related business, for anything in your job, sometimes at home. It's really, really great platform. And Python is so beautiful. Like if you are doing scientific computing, it's not your best choice, but for machine learning, Python is really a great platform. Everything you need is there. Okay, I think there's a question. It says, what is your suggestion to get admission in data science if you have low profile, meaning that less than 3.0 scale of 4, IELTS score 7, completed undergraduate in computer science? Look, first of all, I have to be honest with you. So we look at the total package, right? There's no one formal solution, and we have to be honest to each other, right? A student, let's say, with a GPA of 3.0 from computer science versus a student from the history department with a 4.0 GPA. So which one do you think would have more experience and understanding and knowledge right now in the field of programming, computing, etc.? In that case, of course, the first student, like the one from the CS background with a low GPA, would have a higher chance. But I have to tell you, like in our program, we had so many successful students coming from very non-technical backgrounds. One of them was actually she studied psychology, and now she's a senior data scientist at McCormick because she had this understanding of psychology of people, right? And then she joined us. She really worked so hard to improve her programming skills, her data science skills, and then she applied that knowledge into human psychology. And McCormick is one of those companies where they are trying to understand which spices are, making the trends, what kind of new spices they can come up with. So that was a really nice success story. So it is not just GPA. So what can you do at this point to increase your chance? So like when we read an application package, we are looking for a genuine interest in data science, right? Like sometimes I see applications like it's a fresh graduate student from school X with good GPA, but no prior attempt to do anything related to data science. Like it doesn't have to be just programming, but maybe you read a book about data science, right? Machine learning, or you you just try to improve or learn Python by yourself. So those small steps are really important. It really helps us to understand whether this person has a genuine interest in data science or not. So that's number one, like taking online courses or trying to learn stuff related to data science. Number two, I think like statement of purpose is very important. So you can explain to us why your GPA was low, and I have to tell you, like my GPA was low as well. Like it was actually below 3.0, right? So if we were harsh on this, like we wouldn't admit anyone. But in the like we admitted students with GPAs less than 3.0 in earlier. One of them has this great success story. Her statement of purpose was tough to read, a little bit dramatic. But now the result is great. She's a data scientist at IBM. And there is this video, or you can find it on our website. She's one of those people like listed on that video. Yeah, like you can write a killer statement of purpose. The third one would be getting strong recommendation letters. Of course, this doesn't mean that you should go to someone that write me the best recommendation letter. But I would say a very rich recommendation letter, maybe which could explain why your GPA was low, right? So because we all have different stories. Maybe we need to know that story to be convinced. Okay. Stephanie wrote that there are 3 sample online platforms to help with prereqs. MOOCs, isn't MOOC is the common name of them? edX and Coursera. Yeah, like there are a bunch of them. And actually, I also take some courses on edX and Coursera, but they are courses on Italian, not other stuff. Yeah, so you can definitely try that one. Another question? Okay, so Pawan asked a question, Luis asked a question. Oh, by the way, 2 weeks ago, I attended a conference in Monterey, California, and I met a guy. His name was also Luis. So I thought that guy was a graduate student. He looked so young, and then I just learned that he was a professor at Purdue in the ECE department. Okay, so we also have. Does it say Innocent? Oh yeah, it says Innocent. So, Innocent, do you have any question? Don't be so shy and quiet.
No. Okay. I have a question. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I did business statistics and business calculus in my undergraduate studies. By the way, I'm from Malawi, Africa.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, does this set a good foundation for the program?
So like business calculus is it's not if you have a similar business calculus class, it mostly focuses on like derivatives and integrals, etc. But what we are looking for, like vector calculus, like matrices, matrix transforms, LU decompositions, etc., etc. Again, like on paper, you might meet our admission requirements, but if you are serious about this, just start on your own learning about vector calculus. And you can mention this in your statement of purpose. Again, like on paper, it might sound like enough, but personally, you should learn more.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
I do have another question related to my personal situation. So I have my degree from an international institution, but I've been living in Maryland for 2 years.
Oh, then in that case, you don't need ELC.
So I'm a domestic student then?
So if you live in the United States for 2 years or more, then I just mentioned this in your statement of purpose, and it would be nice if you can somehow prove it. Then in that case, ELC English exam requirement is not it's not a requirement. You don't have to take ELC.
Okay, but I'm not considered international no more, right?
I don't know. Like maybe Stephanie can help with that question.
Yes, I put it in the chat box. Yeah, we have to look at some of the other variables to that. But it would look like, Louis, you will likely still apply as an international applicant. However, the ELC will be waived because of the minimum 2 years that you've been in the States. But I believe it's a certain amount of years over that you would qualify as a domestic. Don't quote me on that. That would more formally come from the graduate school. But in terms of the ELC, regardless, if you are still needing to apply as an international, we can waive the ELC.
Okay, thank you.
Also, there was a question about scholarships. Like, we don't have scholarships. This is a professional program. We have no scholarships. All right, another question. Okay, if there's no more question, yeah. So then let's wrap up. So our deadline for admission international requirement applications is like April 7. For domestic students, it is August 1st. Yeah. So like we covered almost everything, and hopefully we'll see you guys at UMBC in next this August. Okay, at the end of August. Thanks so much for joining us.
Wait, I do have one question, just
Oh, go
one
ahead.
more.
Yeah.
Okay, remember how you said to pretty much like use Coursera, EDX, or just any online platform to accomplish any of the prerequisites that we need to get into the program?
So like specific courses, you mean?
Okay, I was just wondering, since we have to take a online course to fulfill like one of the prerequisites, since they do offer certificates, what would we put down in terms of our grade? Like, what would we put down? Because I did have a quick look at the application. We need to put down like a letter grade.
So like traditionally, like based on my experience, so they get this PDF file from those edX or Coursera systems, and they just provide it like this student completed this certificate, this course online. So I think that online certificate will be enough for us to believe that you have enough fundamentals in that particular area. Yeah, but it's not a formal required. Like you don't have to get a grade, right? It is just showing that you did your homework and now you know, let's say, statistics well enough so you can join us. But by the way,
Okay,
like there is no guarantee, because in this happened a couple of times. So student took some online courses. They applied to our program, but in the end we didn't admit them, and they were really upset. And they said like, I just took this course just to get admitted to your program. And I'm sorry, but like it's as we always say, it's a total package. When we look at the total package, like you were not in the top certain number of student lists, so we couldn't admit. So again, if you're going to take a course, please don't think that that is 100% guarantee that you will be admitted to our program. I'm telling this for anyone, not just for you. Okay, don't get me wrong.
well, okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:43. Today the weather was really nice, so it's time to go out and enjoy the nice weather. Good night.